more than a decade, police in the U.S. have had a crucial tool that we don't. A national DNA database for missing people. It's helped solve hundreds of cases and has become a model for other countries. In Canada, advocates have been fighting for a DNA database for missing people for years. And finally, Ottawa is about to make it happen. Mark McAllister now with what that could mean for thousands of families.
It's sad. It's the not knowing that hurts.
The mystery deepens every year for the Boyle sisters, Amanda and Siobhan. Revisiting the spot where their brother Jay vanished 19 years ago along with a group of friends.
In this type of weather. Young and free, young and stupid.
After a night of drinking, the six boys were feeling reckless. So in the early morning hours, they stole boats from this marina in Pickering, Ontario. They were never seen again.
They just took the boat for a joyride, and they ended up drowning. And they probably died of hypothermia.
At least that's the official version, the police version of what happened to Jay Boyle and the Lost Boys of Pickering. But investigator Bruce Ricketts is not so sure.
There is no evidence to indicate that the boys drowned in the lake.
No.
None at all.
Ricketts spent months on the case, talking to people and going through hundreds of police documents.
Red flags started popping up all over the place. It took them 36 hours before they even began the investigation. It took them 2 days to give up on it.
That was 6 boys. How do you stop searching for 6 boys after just 48 hours?
Police never found a body or even a fragment of the powerboat the boys stole. They presumed they all drowned.
The boat was designed not to sink. It could have sunk over time, I guess, if it got waterlogged, but it certainly wouldn't have sunk within the 48-hour period.
A police report at the time said the boat was, quote, stuffed with styrofoam and was supposed to be unsinkable.
The military had a helicopter and a Hercules aircraft involved in the search. So they covered an awful lot of area, but for some odd reason, this boat never showed up.
Our big question is, where are they? After 19 years, 6 boys, none of them resurfaced, not even a piece of clothing. They all wore baseball caps. How could not one of them resurface?
However, something did resurface. A pair of jeans and a few bones washed up in the Niagara River 72 kilometers away. Police dismissed any possible link between the bones and the Lost Boys, so they never told the families what they found. 15 years would pass before the Boyles saw a picture of the jeans online. They were stunned because the pants matched those Jay was wearing on the day he disappeared.
It feels like it's day one. It brought up like so many emotions and just hoping that it could be him.
Police finally ordered a DNA profile this summer after the family collected an online petition with 40,000 signatures.
What they should have done is they should have done a DNA profile of all of the mothers of the 6 boys back in 1995, or at least collected the samples.
Why didn't they take samples? It's just common sense. That's what frustrates us.
Yeah.
Because now we're waiting and waiting and waiting.
The story of the red jeans points to a glaring gap in Canadian forensic policy, that human remains can sit in a morgue for years, even decades, without any scientific effort to give them a name.
It doesn't make any sense. It's mind-boggling.
Retired Edmonton cop Jim Gurney spent 6 years on the city's missing persons unit. He can't understand why it's taken more than a decade for Ottawa to commit to the database.
It's just the right thing to do. It's just what police owe family members of missing persons. If we have the ability to do this, we should be doing it, plain and simple.
Right now, as a rule, authorities don't do DNA profiles on random bones, unless they're found at a crime scene. That's why a national DNA database for missing persons could make such a difference.
The simple fact of the matter is right now, there are unidentified remains cases across the country and missing person files across the country. And there's no automatic way of trying to connect those files via DNA.
Getting a DNA swab is as simple as spitting into a test tube, and that genetic profile can then be filed in a databank, ready for cross-referencing. Hundreds of families of the missing could benefit. Families like the Harringtons, whose father Rob disappeared from his Toronto home a decade ago.
I'd offered DNA, I offered anything to just keep my information, all my stuff, right at the ready, because I'm waiting.
Waiting for word about a father who vanished 10 years ago, heavily in debt, in poor health, possibly on the run from gangsters.
As a family guy, he was great. He just made a lot of wrong decisions in life.
For years, Katie's life was like an Amber Alert that never ends.
I spent a lot of time doing research on the computer, calling various police departments. Every time they found a body anywhere, or bone fragments or anything, I'd be on the phone. I would be calling York, I'd be calling Peel, I'd be calling wherever.
In 2008, a Toronto homicide cop told her he had information that Harrington, a known fraud artist, had been murdered.
He could conclude that we'll never find him again, and we can have a memorial service.
But Katie always had doubts.
For me, until I have a piece of anything, a finger, I don't care. Something that I can match my DNA to, I'm always gonna have that wonder.
Katie may wonder for a long time. For even if her father's remains are found tomorrow, there is nothing to compare his DNA against, because Katie's DNA is not on file. A national database that brings together the DNA of those lost and those looking could make all the difference.
Next, a search without an end.
What I want is the comfort of knowing that if she's found next week, next year, or after I'm dead, that somebody would know who she is.
For the families of the missing, the search never really ends.
We had spent years looking at every homeless person just a little bit closer. Anybody who was half bald, you know, did that beard grow just a little bit too long? Could it actually be him?
Still, to this day, if I see somebody moving or walking or, you know, flicking their hair in a certain way, pulls at me.
Hope and heartbreak repeated over and over again.
We always wonder, like, what he would be like, and how he would be with our kids now, and what kind of dad he would be to his daughter.
Every face, every artist's conception is an unfinished story, a broken link that needs a human connection.
That person had a kindergarten teacher and had a brother and had a mom. You want to be able to reunite that story with the family, to give them the ultimate dignity of giving them a name and a history.
Bill Inkster runs a unique unit in BC that could soon become a model for all of Canada, matching human remains to families through the use of DNA profiles.
The prime samples for DNA are teeth and this bone right here, a femur. So we want the richest possible specimen.
It's often a grisly job, but the rewards can be gratifying for those who've lost someone.
It's bad enough losing a family member, but when you don't know what's become of them, it just magnifies the horror for them. So when you see the relief, when you go back to them with this, it's beyond belief.
A national version of Bill Inkster's operation would be the product of one woman's tireless campaign.
Lindsay was last seen walking down a rural road, presumably hitchhiking.
Judy Peterson's personal drama began 21 years ago when her daughter Lindsay didn't come home one day.
The longer it went on, the more terrified I became.
She did all the right things, put up posters, gave a lot of interviews, kept after police, but nothing worked. So she took a decisive step. She turned to science.
And I was in contact with the RCMP a lot. But when I could see that there was really nothing more for them to do, I decided that it was time to get her DNA into the databank.
We're sorry, the RCMP told her. There is no DNA databank for missing persons. So she tried something else. Every time there's a violent crime in Canada, police collect forensic evidence, including DNA from the scene. The RCMP stores that evidence in something called the Crime Scene Index. It's a great crime-fighting tool, but Judy Peterson believed the index could also be used to find out what happened to missing people like Lindsay. Not so, said the RCMP. Their hands were tied. Unbelievably, the law won't let them search the index for the DNA of missing people.
I was horrified that maybe she was sitting in a coroner's office and I would never know that she'd already been found. Horrified was my first reaction, and then anger.
So Judy turned up the heat. Over 10 years, she pestered politicians and kept Lindsay's story in the public eye.
You know, I've been through, I think, 7 public safety ministers.
Almost everybody agreed there should be a national DNA database for the missing, a kind of human lost and found agency. But politics kept getting in the way.
It can't possibly take a decade to put something into place when all of the processes are in place and everybody agrees that it should go forward. Like, what is the holdup?
One holdup was privacy. What about people who go missing intentionally and don't wish to be found? Retired Edmonton cop Jim Gurney.
So in those cases, we tell the loved one that your missing person is no longer considered missing. They've been located alive and well. The file is concluded. Any other information would have to come from them. And in the vast majority of cases, they're perfectly happy with that.
As for Judy Peterson, she won't be happy until Lindsay's case is closed. But last February, she got some good news. A promise by Ottawa that it would launch its DNA database starting in 2016. That may sound like a brave new step forward, but it isn't. In BC, Bill Inkster has been matching DNA with remains for the last 8 years, and he's had great results.
We never give up on our unidentified human remains cases.
Inkster solved the bizarre mystery of the 9 detached feet, washed up in shorelines across the province over a period of several years.
You've got a shoe, you've got some bones in the shoe, and that's it. We have very little idea what the person looked like, or even whether it's male or female. In all of our cases, we've been able to get a DNA profile. Armed with that little bit of information of our 9 feet, all individuals are identified.
Identified to their grateful families as suicides or accidental deaths.
We're going to have a geographic analysis done in the background as we go out to process the scene.
Inkster's system uses global positioning technology. Again, something that's been available to Ottawa for years.
So if I hit this dot, I will get something like this. So I have, in this case, it's a human mandible or a lower jaw that's been found. These are nearby cases that could be related to our new find.
Inkster sees a bonanza for law enforcement.
A huge difference for coroners and medical examiners and police investigators to have the opportunity to return those remains, to give them a name, to return them to families, not least to close files.
Close files and help heal wounded families. A national DNA database named after Judy's daughter, Lindsay, could do that, could answer that haunting life or death question in every province. But Judy's not expecting any instant miracles.
I don't want you to think that I think once the DNA databank gets turned on that we're going to find Lindsay, because I don't. What I want is the comfort of knowing that if she's found next week or next year or after I'm dead that somebody would know who she is.
Next, a lament for a fading tradition.
There was an expression that said, "The song never dies, just the singer."